Jaya Braja Jana Ranjana. Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Yamuna Tira Jaya Yamuna Vanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaur-Bhakta-Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhav Radha Madhav Radhe. Jaya Radha Madhav Radha Madhav Sri Radhe. Jaya Radha Govardhana Hari Radha Govardhana Hari Sri Radhe. Jaya Radha Govardhana Hari Radha Govardhana Hari Sri Radhe. Jai Sri Sri Radha Madhava Ki Jai, Sri Sri Radha Govardhana Hari Ki Jai, Shri Radhashtami Mahamotsava Ki Jai. We had the verse to be chanted, but it hasn't been put up on the board. So we'll just chant the verse. It's fairly simple, so we can just repeat. Jai Jai Shri Caitanya Jai Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. So we'll say each word and then we'll do the whole line. Shri Radhara Bhava Lana Caitanya Avatar. Actually, if anyone has their phone in Vedabase, you can look this verse up. It is Adi-lila, Caitanya Caritamrita, chapter 4, text 220. I need to turn that down a bit, whoever's operating that's just feeding back a little bit. So, Adi-lila, chapter 4, text 220. Yuga, Dharma, Nama, Prema, Kaila, Parachar. Try to repeat. Shri Radhara Bhava Lana Caitanya Avatar. Shri Radhara Bhava Lana Caitanya Avatar. Shri Radhara Bhava Lana Caitanya Avatar. Lana Caitanya Avatar. Very good. Yuga Dharma. Nama Prema. Kaila Parachar. Yuga Dharma Nama Prema Kaila Parachar. Yuga Dharma Nama Prema Kaila Parachar. Very good. Yuga Dharma Nama Prema Kaila Parachar. Yuga Dharma Nama Prema Kaila Parachar. Shri Radhara Bhava Lana Chaitanya Avatar. Shri Radhara Bhava Lana Chaitanya Avatar. Yuga Dharma Nama Prema Kaila Parachar. Somebody else like to chant?
Shri Radhara Bhava Lana Chaitanya Avatar.
Shri Radhara Bhava Lana Chaitanya Avatar. Yuga Dharma Nama Prema Kaila Parachar. Shri Radhara Bhava Lana Chaitanya Avatar. And ladies?
Shri Radhara Bhava Laya Chaitanya Avatar.
Shri Radhara Bhava Laya Chaitanya Avatar. Yuga Dharma Nama Prema Kaila Parachar. Shri that Radhara of Srimati Radharani. Bhava, the emotion. Laya, taking. Chaitanya, of Lord Chaitanya. Avatar, the incarnation. Yuga Dharma, the religion of the age. Nama Prema, the holy name and love of Godhead. Kaila, did. Parachar, preaching. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Lord Chaitanya appeared with the sentiment of Radha. He preached the Dharma of this age, the chanting of the holy name and pure love of God. Please repeat. Lord Chaitanya appeared, with the sentiment of Radha. He preached the Dharma of this age, the chanting of the holy name and pure love of God. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tisma Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya. Everybody can join in. Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine. Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. So once in Sri Dwarka Dham, Lord Sri Krishna had finished his activities for the day and he was coming home to the palace of Rukmini Devi. This story is told by Sri Murari Gupta, the eternal associate of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, was told to Damodar Pandit, another eternal associate. And this story was written down and recorded by Lochan Das Thakur in his Sri Chaitanya Mangala. So Lord Krishna is coming back to his palace and Rukmini Devi is very very anxiously, very expectantly awaiting his arrival. She's created a beautiful reception for the Lord. There are many water pots, fresh leaves, and the path has been sprinkled with scented water. All of the different servants and different members of the household are there to meet Lord Krishna. And as Lord Krishna comes to the palace, as he walks up the steps to the palace, Rukmini sends some of her sons to go and embrace the Lord. The sons embrace the Lord, and then they bring him into the palace. And Rukmini Devi, in great ecstasy, in pure love of Godhead, she takes the lotus feet of Lord Krishna and places them in a beautiful golden bowl, receptacle, and she very lovingly bathes the feet of the Lord to welcome him into her house again, into her palace. And as she's bathing the feet, she finishes bathing the feet, she dries his feet, and she takes the feet and she holds those lotus feet to her breast. And then she starts crying uncontrollably, just sobbing while she's holding Lord Krishna's lotus feet to her breast. And Lord Krishna is somewhat surprised that he's come, had such a nice reception, come to meet his beloved, they're together, and then suddenly she's crying, uncontrollably sobbing, crying. So he inquires, "My dear Rukmini Devi, why is it that you're crying? I'm coming home. It is such a joyous occasion that we can again spend time together with the family, the children. We're meeting. It is a great cause for jubilation. But why are you lamenting? Why are you crying?" And Rukmini Devi explains to him that yes, you are here now, but all I can think about is that moment when you leave again. And that feeling of separation that I will feel at that time is making me cry. She went on to explain to the Lord that you are the Supreme Lord, you are Lord Krishna, you are the knower of everything. Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, he knows everybody, but nobody truly knows him. But Rukmini Devi said, there's one thing that you don't know. And that one thing you don't know is you don't understand what is the intensity of the love, of the pure spiritual love, the pure spiritual emotion that your devotees have for you. She said, this only you don't know. And Lord Krishna thought about it and he started to meditate on this, that actually she's right. Actually, through his various expansions, through the Super Soul, he knows everything within the universe, outside the universe. But the intense love, that feeling that his devotees have for him, that they're fully dependent on him. They're in that position of the dependent person. He's always in the position of the one who is able to, who is giving the shelter. He's in that position. But he doesn't fully know that feeling of being fully dependent in love, in pure love, as Rukmini Devi. And Rukmini Devi went on to say that there is one person who knows this, and you have to learn from her. And the person that really knows this is Srimati Radharani. Only she understands the full extent of complete transcendental love of Godhead, Krishna Prema. She said, if you could take that mood, if you could understand that mood, that feeling of Srimati Radharani, only then you could understand what is that we are feeling as your devotees. So Lord Krishna was meditating on this, and just at that time it was announced that Narad Muni has entered the palace. Narad Muni has come. And Lord Krishna quickly greeted Narad, gave him all respect, and he found that Narad Muni is feeling very anxious. He's feeling very forlorn. His face is downcast. And he thinks, I can't understand what's happening today. I come home, my wife is crying. Now my guru, who is always ecstatic, chanting Radhika Ramana Name all over the universe, he's very morose. What is happening today? So he inquires from Narada Muni, and Narad says to him, actually, the reason I'm so morose is that I can foresee the coming Kali Yuga when you will leave this planet. And I can't understand how will all of the fallen souls of Kali Yuga become delivered. How is it possible? So Lord Krishna meditated on this, and he thought, okay, my wife wants me to understand, in fact, he said, I want to understand this mood of Srimati Radharani, this intense love for Krishna. And Narada Muni wants that the fallen souls of Kali Yuga are saved. So let me come in a golden form. I'll come with the mood of Radharani. And I'll also preach, I'll also give the holy name that will deliver everyone in Kali Yuga. And so we can see in this very wonderful verse of Sri Caitanya Caritamrita, which is in the 4th chapter of the Adi-lila, very beginning, and that chapter is entitled The Confidential Reasons for the Appearance of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. These are the confidential appearance. So right in the very beginning, Sri Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is giving us this, in a nutshell, this verse gives the two main reasons for Lord Chaitanya's descent. Shri Radhara Bhava Laya Chaitanya Avatar. He's taking the mood of Srimati Radharani. Yuga Dharma Nama Prema Kaila Prachar. And he's, through that mood, by exhibiting that mood and by manifesting that mood and by the practices of bhakti yoga, of chanting out, calling out for Krishna, by having that mood of separation from Krishna. Not that, yes, we have found God, or even worse, we are God. No, not like that. But bhakti yoga is that we haven't found God. We're always looking for Him. We have that intense desire to truly connect with God. Pure love. Not just through a business arrangement, give us some bread, give us some blessing. No, in actual pure love. This is the gift of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And we also read from Srila Narottam Das Thakur, Heno Nitai Bine Bhai Radha Krishna Paite Nai. That without getting the mercy of Lord Nityananda, without getting the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we cannot enter into. It's very, very difficult. Very difficult to enter into the mood of serving Srimati Radharani and Krishna. One time Srila Prabhupada said that if you want to get the mercy of Krishna, you have to first get the mercy of Srimati Radharani. And if you want the mercy of Srimati Radharani, you have to get the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And if you want the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you have to get the mercy of Lord Nityananda. Heno Nitai Bine Bhai Radha Krishna Paite No, not possible. And to get the mercy of Lord Nityananda, Prabhupada said, we have to get the mercy of our gurus, of our instructors, who have opened up this path and given us instruction of how to follow and how to cooperate together to push forward the Sankirtan movement of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is the process. We cannot directly approach Krishna, directly approach Srimati Radharani. We're approaching through our gurus, and then it's very real. Just like Bhakti Yoga is given as a staircase, right? Ado Shraddha Tada Sadasanga Bhajana Kriya. Like this, there's a step by step, and it's very real. It's very real. It's not just illusory. So first step is we take some faith, then we take association with devotees, learn how to perform devotional service, clear the heart of inauspicious things, gradually get some attachment and some real taste. These things come later. So just like a staircase, if we see that a staircase is functional, the function of a staircase is that it goes in small steps that you can actually practically make, right? If you have a staircase from the ground floor to the first floor, nobody can jump. Nobody can jump that high. But little step, you can take one little step. And from there, you can take another little step, and like that. So this is the step-by-step process of understanding these great topics of the love of Sri Sri Radha and Krishna. If we imagine a staircase, and just say, for example, there's a restaurant on the first floor, then you go step by step, you can get to the restaurant and you can taste what is the prasadam, what is being served there. But if somebody says, oh, why take the trouble to go step by step? I'll just stay here and I can taste the food. Then their tasting of the food is not very real, right? It's just kind of an illusion. It's kind of a fantasy. And many people may gather at the bottom of the stairs and say, oh, look at these foolish people taking the trouble to walk up these stairs. Ah, we're here, we're tasting the same food. Can you taste? Oh, yes, I can taste it. Taste, oh, yeah, it tastes wonderful. But the people who are actually walking up the stairs and actually tasting the prasadam, they think it's very silly, childish, right? So in this way, there are some class of pseudo-devotees who say, you don't need to go through Guru, you don't need to get the mercy of the previous acharyas, you don't need to do sadhana even, you don't need to have regulated life, bhajana, kriya, anatta, nivritti, you don't need all of that. You just imagine you're with Krishna and just imagine you're with Radharani and you're there. But acharyas say that this is very foolish. It's very illusory. It's no reality. So Srila Prabhupada taught us that we have to take step by step. Faith, association, take initiation, work on our devotional service, get free from material attachments and arthas. Only then some taste and real attachment can come. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who Srila Prabhupada is following in his footsteps very carefully in presenting us Krishna consciousness in the most expert way. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, he said that we keep these topics above our head. And this is related by His Holiness Sridhar Swami, Srila Prabhupada's godbrother, in a book called Where Angels Fear to Tread, Where Angels, something Where Angels, I don't know the book. But he writes there that his Guru Maharaj, Bhaktisiddhanta, used to say that these topics, yes, we know they're there, we don't ignore them, but we keep them above our heads. They're up there. They're up there. We don't jump in and think that we can understand in our conditioned state. Bhaktisiddhanta said, wherever you have anartas, in other words, wherever you have any kinds of thoughts or desires or activities that are not purely devotional, wherever you have that, you cannot enter into this high rasa tattva, the pastimes on the spiritual platform. It's just simply illusory and very dangerous and very detrimental. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati said, we keep them up there, these topics, these intimate pastimes of Krishna. But we can understand, we can begin to understand through the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is how we approach, truly understanding what are the emotion, what are the divine ecstasies, the divine feelings and emotions that the residents of the spiritual world have. They're exhibiting. We can read in Krishna book directly. But by approaching through Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we can gradually become an assistant in his ecstasy in this way. Shri Radhara Bhavalana Chaitanya Vata Yugadharma Nama Prema Kaila Pracha. And the two things are not disconnected, they're connected. Just like to get the mercy of Krishna, Radha, Chaitanya, Nityananda, the Guru, to get the mercy to understand Lord Chaitanya's mood, Radharani's mood, we have to serve our gurus. We have to understand that mood. Like the Prabhupada said, they came to Prabhupada saying that the book distributors are saying that this is like the Gopi Bhav. This is like the mood of the gopis, selfless, just out there every day, not worrying about one's own emancipation or one's own spiritual advancement, but simply trying to give out the blessings of Sri Chaitanya and Krishna to the world. And they brought this to Prabhupada and they said, how is this? How this can be? And Prabhupada said, yes, this is the essence. To help others, to give the mercy to others, to cooperate with each other, to try to uplift others. This is actually the mood of the gopis. This is the mood of Radharani. This is actually the mood. This is how Lord Chaitanya, by studying his mood, he's expertly, inextricably displayed his mood of Srimati Radharani and his mood of preaching simultaneously. And we can see that the most confidential associates, Rupa Manjari, the different associates in the spiritual world of Srimati Radharani, came to do this also. This is what their service was in this world. In that world they have their service. You can read in Narottam Das Thakur's Prema Bhakti Chandrika, he writes a very beautiful book, very simple. Doesn't go into so many details, but the mood is given in volumes there in that book. And he says, on the indication of the Sakhis, I will present the different items for the worship of Krishna and Radha. Like that he's saying, the same principle is there in the spiritual world as in the material world, under the guidance of the Guru, under the guidance of the heads, of the person who's arranging the service. This is how the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, they were giving this preaching, they were helping the Sankirtan movement and simultaneously giving pleasure to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And in fact, one glorification of Rupa Goswami is a verse, Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Karamayam Tadati Swapadantikam. This is a glorification of Rupa Goswami because Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam, he could understand the mood of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He very clearly understood the internal emotions that Lord Krishna had come to experience by taking the position of his greatest devotee, Srimati Radharani. He understood that. He had written this verse, and he was too shy to show it to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. One other devotee, Sri Damodar, he read this verse, very famous verse. And the verse said this. In the mood of Srimati Radharani, he said, "My dear friend, now I have met you. Now I have met my very old and dear friend Krishna on this field of Kurukshetra. I am the same Radharani, and now we are meeting together. It is very pleasant, but I would still like to go to the bank of the Jamuna beneath the trees of the forest there. I wish to hear the vibration of his sweet flute playing the fifth note within that forest of Vrindavan." So these eternal associates of the Lord, they all understood the mood of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And the associates of the spiritual world came, and Lalita, Vishaka, Sakis, the constant companions of Srimati Radharani, they also came in Chaitanya Lila as Swarup Damodar and Ramananda Roy. So one time Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was ecstatically discussing the pastimes of Krishna, the gopis, Krishna, in that mood of Srimati Radharani, with Swarup Damodar and Ramananda Roy. And they spent half the night just talking Krishna Katha, completely absorbed. And sometimes Lord Chaitanya would go into ecstatic trance. He would lose external consciousness. But eventually the devotees went home. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took rest. His servant Govinda bolted the doors. But then in the middle of the night, Govinda woke up and he could see that Lord Chaitanya wasn't there anymore. So he's very perturbed. Where is Lord Chaitanya? So the devotees took lamps and they were going around all over Puri looking for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And they finally found him in a barn with the cows, and he was completely unconscious, just with the cows in the straw lying there. And his arms and legs had entered into the trunk of his body, just like a tortoise, when a tortoise pulls its arms and legs in. So you can just imagine Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his golden form, all of his limbs had entered into his body like a tortoise. His mouth was foaming. Foam was coming from his mouth. And there were eruptions on his body, like little lumps sticking out all over his body due to the transcendental ecstasy. He was completely unconscious. So the devotees tried to bring him back to consciousness, but they couldn't. So they carried the Lord back to his room, and then they started to chant Hare Krishna very loudly. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Again and again they chanted, and finally Lord Chaitanya arose. And he came back to his external consciousness and he said, "Where have you brought me? Where am I?" He said, "I was in Vrindavan. And I saw Krishna was playing his flute in the pasturing ground in Vrindavan Dham. There were many cows there. And then I saw the gopis, and Krishna and the gopis were joking with each other and laughing and performing all kinds of pastimes while they laughed and they joked with each other. I said, I can no longer hear this nectarian voice of Krishna and the gopis, and I cannot hear the ornaments of the gopis as they moved. I cannot hear the sound of Lord Krishna's flute. My ears are dying of thirst. Please recite something to quench this thirst. So then Swarup Damodar began reciting some verses from Bhagavatam, describing the pastimes of Lord Krishna. But Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was like this. He could only be consoled by the pastimes of Krishna, by hearing about Krishna. Like when Krishna left Vrindavan, and of course Krishna never leaves Vrindavan. It's described in many places. Krishna is always present in Vrindavan. But to the external vision he appeared to leave, and the associates of Vrindavan, their attachment for Krishna became even more when he wasn't there. And they were seeing him not just, sometimes the gopis would lament during the day they didn't see Krishna, he was out with the cowherd boys. But once Krishna left, they saw Krishna everywhere. Everywhere and at all times. They were seeing Krishna and they were discussing his pastimes, talking about him. They were completely absorbed in a spiritual platform. So like this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was the same, that he was so immersed in this ecstasy of separation from Krishna, that the only thing that would console him was talks about Krishna. And one very magical element of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes is that he made his headquarters at Puri. Of course, we know when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took sannyas, he travelled. He from Katwa he went to the house of. He was going to go to Vrindavan, and by some trick of Nityananda and then Advaitacharya, he was brought to Advaitacharya's house, and there he met Mother Sachi, and there's an incredible scene there that Mother Sachi was feeling, you've left home, now the second, I had 2 sons, now you also left. The first son, he also took sannyas. And she asked the Lord, please, if you stay in Puri, then it will be close. Because Puri and Mayapur, it's like 2 rooms of the same house, she was explaining. Then devotees will come and go, I can hear some news about your activities, but at the same time, you won't disregard the sannyas restriction by actually staying in Mayapur as a sannyasi, which is the place of your birth, so that's not proper. So like this, Lord Chaitanya settled in Puri, and the very wonderful pastimes of Rath Yatra happen in Puri, as we know, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would exhibit these pastimes in front of the Rath cart of reenacting this pastime when Srimati Radharani and the gopis went to Kurukshetra, and they were calling, Krishna, come back to Vrindavan. We see you here with the big helmet and so many soldiers and horses, and it's very nice to see you, but we want to see you in Vrindavan, in the simple village scene, the simple cowherds with the cows and the pastures. It's like we have here in New Govardhana. So they wanted to see him there in that environment and serve him to their heart's content there. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu every year would perform these pastimes at Rath Yatra, where he would be calling the Lord to come to Vrindavan, and simultaneously spreading the Sankirtan movement. Right? So the 2 things he was doing together very wonderfully. Thank you very much for coming. I feel very grateful, humbled, and very grateful to be able to speak something on the appearance day of Srimati Radharani in glorification of her pastimes and the activities through Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And ask all the devotees to please remember and have a wonderful day in service to Srimati Radharani and Krishna through the wonderful parampara that we've been given to offer our service through to them. So thank you very much. Hare Krishna. If there's any quick question, we have some time. So no questions means either it was all okay or everyone's asleep. I don't know.
Probably like to ask a quick question.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yeah, take the microphone, then it'll come record. He'll bring.
You were saying how your financial Sri Maharaj and all our acharyas have warned to not take Radha Krishna's pastimes cheaply and ordinarily. We have to read the first 9 cantos before the 10th canto. But I'm just wondering if you could reconcile the point with Srila Prabhupada. He described that if he wanted that the 10th canto be given, so he did the summary study of the Krishna book. And he described that by hearing these pastimes, with the loving affairs between Radha and Krishna, then lust can be destroyed in the heart. So that kind of indicates that before Anartha Nivriti is complete, that lust is already there in the heart by hearing them. So I'm just wondering if you could reconcile those two points.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's a very good question. Something I have thought about of myself as well. Yeah. We have to see what is the danger that we're being warned against. What is the warning about? And the warning is about confusing mundane mellows or mundane emotion for spiritual emotion. This is the warning, right? This is what the sahajiyas do. This is the basic thing. And that's why Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati said that you can't enter into this while ever there's anarthas in the heart. And the example is given that, you hear the word Radha, but say you're living in India, and the Baba, his wife is named Radha, So you hear Radha, Radha, and you think of the Baba's wife. That's the example the Acharyas give. Simple example that if we hear about these, relationships between, boys and girls and so forth, then we'll relate that to our experience in the material world. And of course, it is a reflection. It is a reflection. Janmadhyasya yataha. The Vedanta Sutra tells us that this world is a reflection, but it's a perverted reflection. And just like if you see the reflection of an apple tree, you can understand something about the tree. Apples, it has leaves, but you can't taste the fruit through the reflection. So in the same way, we aren't. Let me say, we are meant to contemplate how this world is an emanation from Krishna's world, in the sense that it is a reflection, and we can understand the reality through that reflection. But the danger of hearing these pastimes is that we will confuse it as this is just like my experience of that. So that's the danger. And that comes when people focus just on those pastimes especially, and think that, okay, I'm feeling that, I'm feeling that. But if you're not on the liberated platform, you don't know what the feelings are. Is it just some mundane feeling, or is it truly a spiritual feeling? The injunction not to hear those intimate pastimes is an injunction that, according to our purification, we only hear to that level that we won't make that mistake of thinking that's mundane. Does that make sense? That's a bit of a long sentence, but so what Prabhupada has done so, magically and expertly in the Krishna book is he's given the pastimes in such a way that we can understand that there is some wonderful interaction that's happening, which is way beyond our experience or anyone's experience, or way beyond any romance movie or romance novel or anything that we've ever seen or heard. There's something way beyond that, but he doesn't give the details in such a way that we'll confuse it and think, oh yeah, that's just like my experience of this material world. So like that, it's purifying. As long as we don't confuse the two, it's purifying. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur makes a very important point that what the impersonalists do by negating the qualities of the Supreme, they therefore say that there's no this sex interaction, female, masculine. There's none of that. The impersonalists, by saying this, the Supreme is just impersonal. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur said that what they do is they take that desire for the feminine masculine interaction, they take that out of spiritual life. And what he said is that in the name of increasing detachment and renunciation and getting beyond mundane sex, they actually give impetus to the mundane sex life, because it is the strongest force in the universe, right? And if somebody has a philosophy that there's this strong, all-encompassing thing, everybody wants to watch the romance movies and everything, but then the perfection of spiritual perfection, there's none of that. There's nothing. It's just a blank light. Then people will say, oh, I'd rather stay in the material world. It's more interesting, right? There's more going on. No, this is what he says. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he's making this point. So the Acharyas give enough that we can understand that whatever attraction we have for the romance and the all of this area of life, it's everywhere. Every single advertisement is trying to evoke this type of enjoyment, everything. So by hearing enough that we can understand that yes, that comes from there, and there's a pure, beautiful, eternal manifestation of that without any lamentation. And that's what we want to get to. Then it's purifying. Yeah. Is that okay? Thank you for the question, because it got me thinking more. This is... is there any other question or comment? And if we hear, he said that by the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, a lame man or lame person can cross over mountains, a dumb person can recite eloquent poetry. So all of this is possible by the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That's why they're saying, the Acharyas are telling us, without Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy, in Kali Yuga, maybe in a previous Yuga, when the purity was there, you could go to the forest, be totally undisturbed, meditate on these pastimes with no other influence. Maybe it's possible. But in Kali Yuga, without the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, how is it possible to actually enter into these topics? Right? Jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai, Srimati Radharani ki jai, Sri Sri Radha Govardhana Hari ki jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.